Welcome you all to the Mobile Application Development Lecture Series. This is my 5th lecture on the introduction, Module 1, Lecture 5. We have been discussing about Mobile Application Development Introduction from the past 4 hours. And today's class is all about a very interesting class today. We will be discussing about the various technologies, the architectures of the different mobile operating systems, or we can call it as platforms. So let's see what is the takeaway from today's session. Today's session is completely dedicated to mobile platforms, nothing but mobile operating systems. We will be discussing about various technologies of mobile operating systems, starting from the Android, the Windows Phone 7, the beautiful iOS, and the left out BlackBerry or Symbian. So this is what is today's importance of the class. So at the end of the day, we'll get to know the different analysis, the pros and the cons of different architectures or the different mobile platforms, and every platform has its own advantages and disadvantages. So it all depends on one's requirement, and we'll be analyzing what is the market share of different technologies and which one is good for what purpose. This is today's takeaway from today's class. So before starting today's class, let's recall what did we discuss in the previous class, previous lecture. We've been discussing about the users, and the previous class was all about the mobile information design. In the previous class, if you remember, we discussed about the information display, which is nothing but the actual processing unit or a display unit. Either it could be a refrigerator or it could be a fridge or a monitor. How exactly the information has to be displayed, the required information, how attractively, how we can display it. That is what we discussed. Then we discussed about design patterns, wherein in a mobile, what are the design patterns we can go through. Say example, a scrolling, a expandable view. All these things we discussed in the design patterns. Then we discussed about content and controls. Content and controls with respect to the information and what are all the different controls we can play on top of the information. Then we discussed about intervening screens, which is nothing but a splash screen or a updating progress bar screens. When do we need to have, why we should bring in those screens, what is the importance of those screens whenever it is idle or whenever something background information is processing is happening with the application. So that then we discussed about the very important advertising. So unless the advertisement comes in, the money doesn't come into the application or the developers or the company. So where to display the advertisement, which is the best place without disturbing the users concentration, but you should attract, somewhere we have to attract. So which is the best place? So that also we discussed with respect to design perspective of the UI. Then at the end we discussed about the content structure and the usage, which is nothing but how do we write a content in a mobile screen. Say example, we have to use a plain text, not a complete paragraph, which is attractive words we need to use. We should use attractive fonts. We need to use error corrections, detections. These things we need to make use of it. Attractive fonts should be, so how do we attract the user? With the fonts, the typography, the plain English which we use, the small text what we use, these things we discussed. Which means the overall previous lecture was completely towards understanding mobile information design. Meaning if the information, how better we can design in a UI, how better we can represent it in a UI. This was a complete attention which we gave in the previous class. Whereas today's class we are moving ahead to discuss about the various technologies, various platforms or the various operating systems which are available, which will run on the mobile. So this is a very interesting class today, and you will be enjoying today's class. Let's begin with today's actual topic, that is, what is mobile operating system? You students being studying from past 2 years or the 1 year, you got to know what is operating system. Can anyone tell me that what is operating system? Yes, that's good. The one student who answered it. Operating system is a program or it is an application which is an interface between an hardware and the user. That is nothing but an operating system. It performs many tasks. Say example, any hardware as such, whichever, either it is a desktop or a laptop or an iPod or an iPad or a mobile, everything runs on an operating system. Either it is a small or a big, depends on that. If you are using a developer, a big laptop or a very high processing machine, then you will be using a effective, more powerful operating systems like Windows, Ubuntu or Mac. Whereas you are using a small device like a mobile, even that hardware need an operating system, because without an operating system, the hardware is of no use. And what should be done has to be explicitly specified by the user. We need to specify what is the action to be performed, and that action, it has to be converted into the mechanical event through an hardware, which means operating system is an interface between hardware and a user. So let's how exactly we can draw a picture out of it. We consider there is an hardware. Hardware is nothing but any mechanical devices we can consider. Either it could be a monitor, or it could be a CPU, or it could be a motherboard, or it could be a refrigerator, it could be a mobile, or it could be a washing machine. Everything is an hardware. But there should be someone who is controlling it. That controlling, we call it as the OS. It could be a Windows, it could be a Mac, or it could be Android, or it could be any of the OSs. And with this OS, we are the users, will be making use of it. Which means OS is an interface between hardware and user. This is what I mean to say. In simple terms, if I have to say. Then what is the difference between a normal OS and a mobile operating system? Even mobile is also an OS, never forget that. Which means it also requires an OS. It is also an hardware which should be controlled, meaning what you want to perform there in a hardware. It could be you want to store it in a device, you want to play music, you want to play video. Everything should happen, a screen should come up, you should display. All these things are possible only if the hardware works. Then how do we make it work? This is the OS which is going to make it work. What are the features it can do? It can do a better memory management. It can do a process management. It can manage the resources. Everything is possible with the OS. It controls the functionality of the hardware. So, using this OS, the user will be able to access it. So, this is, whereas in our mobile also we have an OS. On top of the OS, we have many applications, that is irrespective of it. Without applications, can't we make it run? No, we can make it run. There are basic applications, the basic features which are already available in an OS. But even without applications, that doesn't happen. So, in a mobile application, we can even observe there are apps in between, which means user interacts to the OS only through these applications. Example, if I have to give you, Android is an OS, iOS from Apple is an OS, Windows Phone is an OS, BlackBerry is an OS, Bada is an OS, Symbian is an OS. Considering an Android OS, we don't directly interact with the OS. We make use of the apps. Say example, it could be a WhatsApp, it could be a contacts, it could be a call, it could be a messaging, it could be a Gmail. These are the different kinds of apps. Or it could be a clock, or it could be a calculator, or it could be a note. Many of the applications, we interact with the OS through the applications. So overall, any hardware, we have an OS. Even the same thing goes with the mobile operating systems also. So which are the different mobile operating systems available? We have Android, we have iOS, we have BlackBerry, we have Symbian. So many OSs have come, and the successful ones are the Android and the iOS, and rest all have lost its market. So this is the overall picture of an OS. So let's go through the next versions, what all the different platforms which we have to go through. Mobile platforms: Android, iOS, Windows, BlackBerry. So let's go through each one of them. Okay. Let's get started with the first OS, that is our Android, the favorite. Who is maintaining it? Of course, it's Google. We can call it as Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google. So did they develop from the scratch? No, actually it was not developed directly from the Alphabet. It's a product of different set of groups who made it happen in 2005. And that's the way the iPhones have started coming in, which means the iOS had started it. But Alphabet or Google got to know that there is a huge market going ahead. The future will be the mobiles. So if we have to enter into the mobiles, then we need to kill the market with the open source. Then they thought the best option is they bought the existing product, that is Android, in 2005. There was a very big move which completely turned the way the user uses it and the way the market works. Say example, it killed the complete market of the Windows and the Nokia Symbian. So that's powerful is Android. It has acquired the market share of 76% throughout the globe. You cannot imagine 76%. Every out of 4 users, 3 of them are using smartphones which is running on Android. You could see it has released almost 11 versions out of it with backward compatibility. The applications which were using Android 5 still runs on Android 11 with the limited features, of course, and it runs on the very beauty out of it is runs on the Linux kernel. So I have to talk about here very importantly, Android was not developed from the scratch. It made use of the existing the desktop oriented Unix platform, and it made use of its core kernel. Making use of that core kernel, it started using, on top of it they developed, they didn't use the complete features out of the OS, Unix. Unix is big, it's huge. It provides you a lot of features. It is mainly meant for high processing applications, but mobile is a small application, meaning which wants to run it on a few small applications to be run, not a high one, the low performing applications. At that point of time, rather than developing a new OS, why we should not develop a new OS, they got to know was already Unix kernel has been developed from past 5 decades, that 50 years the development has gone into the Linux or the OS, which means most of the bugs have been fixed, which means you have a ready product already. All you have to do is just a tune. When they came out in 2005, they just made a small tuning out of it so that it can run with a low RAM on a small device. Rather than a big motherboard or a big processor of a desktop, they made it run on a small device with limited size, very small size, and it made wonder. That's where the all picture started it. They made it a muse and they started living their own mobile sets. And Google, Google was searching for a right product to enter into the mobile space, because Google was completely towards web. They are completely towards internet, free information. So even now they wanted to enter into the different world altogether, because the future was mobiles. So they wanted to enter the smartphones. They do not have a complete hardware. So what they thought is, let's buy a new product out of it and then we market it in such a way that. So that helped them to, the Alphabet bought the Android, and they made whatever has happened is a real history. We cannot forget it. It has acquired 76% from the 0% in a single decade. The Unix took 5 decades and still it is struggling. It's an open source, it's still struggling to acquire the market because Windows is pioneering every space, but Android killed complete the Windows. To an extent, such a way that when they release the open source, now Windows is completely stopped. They stopped with the version of Windows 10. From past 1 decade, there is no Windows. There is no new versions. Till then, they almost ruled the market for 2 years, but whereas now, they are completely wiped. They have killed, they completely killed. Only successful competitor at present is the iOS. So let's go through the different meaning more about Android with respect to the architecture. Let me write a small architecture out of it, what exactly it consists of. A very simple way I'll write it. So we have already seen how exactly the operating system was. Right now I'm going to write a small operating system of Android which is very easy and understandable. In a simple way I'll write it, I'll not make it complicated. Say at the bottom what we have is hardware. On top of it, we definitely say the Android voice, which means whatever is coming up here till here, everything is voice. But let me split it in small blocks, what exactly that voice consists of. If I have to say, the first thing what it consists of is the kernel services. OS kernel, which we call it as. The OS kernel which we have. Because this is the one which will interact with the hardware. Then what do we have is the beautiful Android runtime. I'll talk about it, a very interesting one, very important one, the Android runtime we'll be discussing. The next, on top of it, we have something called as the framework, Android framework. We have Android framework. On top of it, we have the real applications, the apps which we call it as. Through this, the user will interact. So this is a simple way if I have to write an architecture of an Android. So let me explain every bit out of it. This is complete Android OS. So what exactly all these things? These are nothing but libraries as such. If you consider everything is a library, what you have it in OS kernel, those are all the features which will make you interact with the hardware. Say file system, you have to store it, you want to access the audio, the media players, the video, the screen, everything. If you want to make it a display, then everything should happen through this. This is nothing but the Linux core kernel, which has been directly taken and tuned a bit. That's it. The next one is the Android runtime. Here we need to spend time, very much important. What we have to spend, what is a runtime actually? Runtime concept came with the Java. In fact, the Java was so powerful, it killed the other languages because it was platform independent, which means irrespective of the hardware, you have any number of hardwares, you have different OS. Hardware in such a way that it could be a different processor, it could be an Intel processor or any other processors. It could be a motherboard of Xibionic or an Intel motherboard or any other motherboards, ARM. It could be any variety of hardware, it could be any variety of OS, it could be a Windows, it could be a Android, or it could be a Unix, or it could be a Mac. Any OS, you are going to have one such Java runtime, which we call, which means it is an interpreter which converts all your applications written in irrespective of it. You will be writing an application, say in a Java. Can it run on Windows? Can it run on Android? Can it run on Ubuntu? Yes, the same application can run now, because this Java runtime, what does it beautifully does is, it reads out whatever the input coming from the application, it reads in and it gives you the platform specific output, which means it is going to give you the output of Windows understandable platform, it will give you iOS standard, it will give you Unix, which means there is only one application. It converts after the Java runtime, it gets the interpreter converts every line of code to the respective platform. This is the beauty of runtime actually. So the same logic has been used in the Android runtime. Initially, when it was being developed out of Android, was from the groups, the initial development kit, they didn't use Android runtime, they called it as DVC, Dalvik Virtual Machine. It was also doing the same job, nothing big, but later they improved it and they renamed, because it was developed by, because the same Java runtime, if you are having it over there, it's a huge. Actually, Java is huge. It's of a huge size, huge library which cannot be fitting onto a mobile device. It should require a small runtime. So he converted that and he called it as a Dalvik virtual machine, and it has a little bit of issues in it. But what did they do? They improvised and they called it as Android runtime. It also does the same thing. Irrespective of the application return, it is going to convert every application into the understandable OS kernel. Which means the Android OS, what it can understand, it is going to make use of it. It is going to convert it. The next, the framework, what we have it. Framework is actually set of libraries which help you to develop the application. Say you want to develop a UI, you want to develop with the controls, you want to access it. All those controls are provided by the framework. With this framework, on top of it, the applications interact. From this, when the applications are used by the users. So user, very simple, if I have to tell you, you'll open a mobile, you open a WhatsApp, which is nothing but an application. That WhatsApp, whenever it is getting executed, it makes use of the framework, what the UI, what the activity, what is the image, what is the video. It makes use of all those applications, meaning the user APIs. It makes use of the APIs. That APIs will interact with Android runtime. That Android runtime converts into the platform specific, whichever the OS you have it, whichever version of the OS, Linux kernel you have it. In turn, the kernel can interact with the hardware. Now, this hardware can be anything. It could be a Samsung, it could be a Nokia, it could be a Motorola. It can be of anyone developed, because Android is irrespective of the hardware, it can run on any of the machine which is having the OS kernel. In fact, it is nothing but Android. You develop any hardware device, you make it, say you can make Android sit on top of it. This is the beauty of Android. That's the reason we call it as open source. It runs on every hardware. So this is the overall architecture design of an Android. So going through, other options which we can go through is, what are the different advantages of Android? Of course, we can observe it. The different the advantages is, the very important one, it is the open source. It is open source, means it's free of cost. Microsoft Windows is not free, it's licensed. We have to pay to use their OS. Whereas Android, you give free, people tends to use more. So that is the object they used it. And the very biggest advantage of open source is, lakhs, millions of developers started developing applications, apps for Android, which helped more apps, which means more usage by the user, and a user can find whatever you want to do for everything there is an app, because there are million developers for Android. How many developers are there for Windows? How many developers are there for Symbian or Bada? No, you can't hardly find any developers, because it's not open source. You make an open source, there are more users. And the very biggest advantage of this is, it can be coded using a basic language of Java. It is not using a different language set, new language technologies you need to learn, because already any developer in this world, whoever is there, who we call it as a computer professional, everyone learned the basic object-oriented programming, that is Java. We have been developing Windows applications using Java. We have been developing web applications using Java. Now it's time to develop mobile applications using Java. So that made it acquire the huge market. It turned the way we think. Then it is more customizable. Why we call it as customizable? Samsung can customize it, Motorola can customize, Nokia can customize it, anyone can customize it. That's beautiful, that's easy the customize it is. It's very easy to publish, the very important aspect out of it. when you develop and you want to make it reach the globe, then there should be some platform. We call it as the Play Store. Play Store in platform, if you want to publish it, it should go through certain requirements, certain testing, certain results has to happen, and they made it free of cost, and it's very easy to do that. A very minimal cost which they acquire for to test it. So it is very easy to publish. You code however you want it, it is very easy to publish when compared to other OSs, other platforms. Then different messaging app for SMS. To send an SMS, you have multiple applications, meaning all these advantages we are talking about 5 years or 6 years behind. Now you have more advantages coming up. So these are the basic advantages which I am talking. Then huge market access for, you have 76% of the market, which means you develop an application, you can make it reach minimum of 25%, even 25% is almost some trillion. That's big is the market, that many people can access it. You have a huge money coming from if you are getting it with advertisement, and it is cost effective. It's open source, means it definitely is a cost effective and nothing to pay. You find users, meaning you find more developers and you find more users out of it. So these are the advantages of Android. The other the limitations also we have to see. We cannot see that the pros, we have to see on the cons as well. Android applications has few things, but it is all 5 years behind. Now it has been improved. It was quite. It was more problematic with respect to battery. Applications used to tend more memory, and battery was going down very quickly. Now it has improved it. Then forced closing of running apps, because the applications during those days, the 5 years back, if you are considering a decade back, the RAM size was very small and you cannot fit in every application. Gaming was impossible actually. You cannot play PUBG 5 years behind, and because if you are opening a big application, the bigger application has to close automatically. So usually in Android it is not tend to close applications, but if you want to run more, then you have to kill the applications. And it used to heat very fast. We have experienced it. If you are using a smartphone, Android phone from past 1 decade, you would have experienced, even nowadays we experience heating up. Okay. Then we have a very little memory storage problem. It was again a decade back. Now all those, you have huge memory, you can expand, you have over memory actually, you cannot use it. For throughout life you can keep on saving it in the same. So these are all the pros if you consider the earlier. The next technology which we discuss is the iOS. iOS, one of the wonders, the main creator of mobiles we can call it. The smartphones, the UI change happened from the Apple. So Apple are the one who developed the iOS. Then the beauty out of it is, the iOS runs on Apple hardware only. It doesn't run on any other hardware. They are manufacturing the hardware, they are manufacturing the software, which means this software can work on this hardware only. It is not platform independent, it's a platform dependent. And every code, it is not taken like Android where they took it from the Linux. They developed it from the scratch. That is the reason it is faster, high performing. And since it is platform dependent, its performance is very good. Then we have iOS, till date we have iOS released till 13th version. Then it has been developed using Objective-C or Swift. Initially the versions came with Objective-C. Nowadays it can be turned into Swift, and it has got 24% market share, and the huge revenue is coming from this actually. The whole Apple's the billion company, the revenue, it is even bigger than Android actually, you cannot compare, but the huge revenue is coming out of this. It's a huge. So their market share, because the 25% why we are calling it is globe, 24% are using meaning iOS when compared to 76% of Android. But the revenue aspect, this is a huge aspect. The whole US has iOS. Then we have to see on the iOS architecture as well. It's a pretty simple one with only 4 boxes having it. not bigger. They do not leave you the complete architecture for you. They give you very simple way of conveying it. They call it as Cocoa Touch. They call the first layer. I'll explain you. Then we have something called as media layer. Then we have something OS services, core services we can call it as core services. Then we have core OS kernel. Again, every OS is the same way. If you look at it, everything starts, your applications over here, apps, and the user is over here. Everything is the same, nothing big, but the naming conventions differs. Applications in turn interacts with the Cocoa Touch. What exactly? That is nothing but which gives you the UI component, the APIs or the media player APIs it gives you. On top of it, if you come down, there is one more exclusive layer for media, because the success of iPhones or the iOS happens because of its better quality of UI, better quality of image, better quality of video. So they've exclusively made it work for the video and the images. That's the reason they have exclusive meaning blockage for media players, exclusive developed APIs which fits out to their hardware and for better experience. Then from the media layer, we turn into the OS core services. That is where it happens. It's the same as we are discussing about the libraries in Android, the same libraries which we can interact with the core OS kernel, those services. Example, you want to file system, or you want to play the music, if you want to access the OS related APIs, these are the services which we provide, DBMS, database, or any such things. This is nothing but a service layer actually. The last layer which we call is OS pure kernel. And whether is it related to Unix, Linux? No, it's completely from the scratch developed OS, exclusively for their own hardware. It was exclusively for their own hardware. It is not for us. Meaning that's the reason the UI is wonderful. So this is a simple 4-layer structure: Cocoa Touch, media layer, core services, core OS kernel. So in simple way, if I tell, there are 4, this is a different architecture which we have to consider. Moving on to it, we learned it in the architecture. Now let's see the advantages. What are the advantages? Performance is awesome. The beauty of if you use iOS, you'll never feel like using another Android. That's the reason. High performance, faster, generates less heat. Yes, of course, it's their own hardware device. It generates best gaming experience. If you start playing, then you feel like continue playing for the whole night. Then you have a business and gaming experience. Then excellent UI. UI is the one which turned the way we look into it. Every mobile operating system copied the UI from the iOS. They're still the best UI producers in the world. Highly secured. Yes, it's more secured. If you are making any financial transactions in a bank or a trading, then use iPhones. It's highly secured. No one can speak into it and take out your information. And it's multitasking. Yeah, multitasking is part of even Android also and Windows. Everyone does multitasking. Even we are doing multitasking. Okay. Then next, the limitations. Yeah, everything has limitations. Only support, the biggest limitation is it's licensed. It runs only on iOS devices, hardware specific, and very costly, very pricey, and the application sizes are very huge, and less number of applications when compared to Android. Very less number of applications when compared to Android. Next, coming on to the last OS which we will be discussing, that the Windows Phone OS, which is developed by the Microsoft. It runs on the Windows OS kernel, which was already there from past 3 decades. Then it has stopped its releases to the Windows Phone 10. Then it is developed using C, HTML, C#, Java, everything. They've used every language because Everything runs on the .NET framework. .NET framework is language interoperability, which means any language can be understood by the .NET framework. Very simple. Then it has got hardly less market. We can say nowadays it was 5 years back 2%. Now we can say it is 0% market share. Oh, again the architecture we have to see what all the things we have it over here. It is again the same OS kernel, then we have a libraries which can talk, then we have a runtime, then we have a framework APIs, then here we have apps. Use the same way. Applications interacts with the framework APIs like the UI, media, cloud, all those things comes under the framework. Then it in turns interacts with the runtime that we call it a CLR or a .NET framework, which we can call it as .NET framework, a lightweight actually, in fact, a lightweight. Then we interacts with the libraries, then the OS kernel, which is a pure Windows OS, which have been taken from the old Windows CE, which was already been developed and used from past many years, exclusively for compact embedded OS. It is. So this is how the architecture, the same way. The next is advantages of Windows: very high performance, highly secure, multitasking. So the same features goes with it. The limitations: it's not an open source, again it's a licensed one. Does it run on many other devices? No, devices are very pricey. It is having a very less market share, and it has got less number of applications in this market. So that's the reason it lost its market, and it is no more used in the world. They got away from mobiles, they entered into the enterprise solutions for big solutions for companies with a cloud management and many things. They are into that. Sorry to say, it was the limitations of Windows. I have kept it as next. Other OSs which have lost their market share from this world, they have gone away. We have reached history, or the Symbian, the BlackBerry and Bada. Again the same architecture, the same limitations, the same advantages. It is just to name few other technologies, the mobile operating systems or the platforms which were there. The last one is, today's last topic is mobile web browsers. Mobile web browsers, wonderful. Other than having a mobile applications, is there any way to access the information? That is the web browsers. So again it runs on the web OS only. These browsers are nothing but applications which runs on the OS. This is Android OS. Then on top of it what we have is a web browser. It could be an Chrome, it could be a Safari, it could be a Mozilla Firefox, it could be UC browser. Any browser will be interacting with the Windows OS, and in turn it will interact with the hardware. Android OS means the complete architecture it wants. It is nothing but an app. Web browser is nothing but an app, wherein the web applications can be opened through the web browsers. But do remember, you should have, if you want to have better experience, then it should be you need to develop your web applications responsive, which can fit into the small 5.5-inch screen. So that's the only thing which you have to take away from here. The web browsers should be, it can open any of your web applications which are there in this world, which are meant to open it in for, do it for a desktop or a laptop. But if you want to have opening it here, then it is not the UI is not good. It is not user friendly. You need to keep searching everything, the size, everything goes wrong. So you need to do a customized UI for your web applications, which we call it as mobile web applications. There are technologies using HTML5, using responsive technology, web applications. You can develop applications which can fit to a desktop, it can fit to a mobile phones, it can fit for an iPad, any size it can fit into it. So nowadays the trend is develop applications for web applications which can fit for all kinds of screens. So this is all with respect to the mobile web browsers or different technologies which we have learnt. So by this we will be ending today's session, wherein we have discussed what is the lecture takeaways for today's session. If you observe it, we learnt about what is mobile operating system. It is an interface between a user and a hardware. Then we learnt different mobile platforms or the operating systems, that is Android, iOS, Windows, BlackBerry or Bada or Symbian. And at last we discussed about the importance of mobile web browser. With this, I am going to end this session. We will be looking into the further technological aspect or the UI perspective in the coming sessions. Please watch the next video for UI interface. Thank you all.